Hi, everyone. All right. Normally, I would care about like my background. Sometimes I do take the time to, I don't know, to set things up to make it look like they're nice and orderly and neat. But other times I don't. I mean, for the most part, I live pretty organized, in a pretty good organized fashion. But welcome to to my chat today, my conversation. As often, I didn't like put on my makeup and or get all dollied up. But if you know me as a person, actually, I don't do that very often. So it's just I was raised on a farm, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess salt of the earth and or natural is kind of my jam, I suppose. So, but anyway, I'm actually fussing with this because of just the glare. So allow me to see if I can adjust the glare factor that's behind me. Um, I do have a budding trees in my backyard. I've got a Oh, it'd be so nice if it would finally bloom beautifully. I do have a lilac bush that I've been trying to get to bloom big time for years. I have a weeping cherry tree. I have bulbs in my yard, which I love daffodils. I love bulbs. I love flowers. I love cherry blossoms, which, you know, reminds me of the Orient, but also Washington, D.C., and any place where you get spring flowering trees. So yeah, I think that might be a little better as far as the glare factor. But anyway, thanks for joining me. And um, normally I would be, excuse me, working or trying to work and or substitute teaching. Ugh. Um, Yet. I mean, I'm working on multiple streams of income. Let's just put it that way, and have been for quite some time. So all of the gurus, the big names, the billionaire men. Yes, I'm just gonna stereotype and or categorize, but the big thing is have multiple streams of income, set yourself up for success, etc. So I've always been somebody who's worked, even if it's just like when I was in college, I worked, when undergrad, I worked 4 jobs. I was working 3 jobs and taking 15 hours of pre engineering classes. And I had a professor tell me that I must have a learning disability because I went to him on numerous occasions to try to understand what or try to get him to slow down a bit and help me understand. His accent was Indian and it was heavy, and I wasn't the only one who was struggling with him, but because I spoke up, I think, well, obviously he put me down, which I have had that happen multiple times in the professor space. Don't insult your professors, or you may, I mean, even if you're just being truthful, don't insult them, right? And so if you find out that you've offended somebody, I guess, well, anyway, it's not right because he actually was not engaged and or didn't care about me as a student. So, I mean, whatever. And you're gonna bump into that, youngins, right? Any of you that are young, you will bump into this. There are going to be people who just don't care. And so that might be one of my downfalls, for any of you who have worked with me. Probably one of those people who care Well, I've been told I care too much. So that's probably one of my weaknesses. So if you happen to be reviewing this and you would like to hire me for your corporate whatever governance projects, HR, for your culture, like trying to get your teams to become more productive, to give you feedback about developing either young, promising people, or perhaps even somebody who is and has proven to be very good, and you want to preserve them. Many times in the business space, people just cut the fat, cut the loss, get out, and so it used to be when my father was working at Parker Hannifin. I mean, I believe he was there for the entirety of his career. I think I think he might have just been a one employee man. So I could double check with him, but I think that might be the case. As such, many people do not ever think that that's going to be the case, just based on the game that gets played in America of chop the fat, like keep stirring the, you know, cut the employees, keep. I think Jack Welch was like, you always have to have about 33% stir, churn, whatever words you want to choose. Yeah, I listened to him quite a lot, would never consider him a mentor, although he was noted for saying, HR should have a spot at the table. And something that I've observed recently is Costco doesn't even have HR. If they have an issue, they take it up through payroll. So, which actually is probably the reality for many decisions that are made in human resources when it comes to employee situations, especially if layoffs are a thing. So, as far as employees are concerned, just make sure that you're acting appropriately, ethically. I like to say, what did I used to say? I felt like my litmus test was, is it legal? Is it legal? Is it Does it make sense? Like if somebody maybe veers off of the beaten path, like a standard operating procedure, and a manager and or someone is upset for performance, let's just say, and ethical, right? And so, I'm not so certain that there's such a thing as ethics officers, police, people. That is all leadership. Ethics has to come from leaders. So, a perfect slam dunk example of that is Hitler, who was able to get, because he was a chief. I mean, his he was a general, I guess, or whatever. I mean, his people I mean, they completely followed orders. And yeah, I mean, we saw people completely extinguished. It is, like, hands down by far that I'm aware of the most documented genocide that's ever existed, ever. Hmm. Well, so it's 2024 and America has, a plethora of things in the media, corporate stuff, um, religious stuff, political stuff. So, you know, in our government, so often the polarization of coming down to the Democrats versus the Republicans becomes so divisive. But, actually having three parties, I don't know, it throws that game into a whole different realm. And so, um, by and large, though, I do think the majority of Americans are middle of the road. I have illustrated this and described this I remember I had a teacher who came from the public brick and mortar space and was super bent on getting a union into an environment where we were non-union and more corporate. And she felt like she wasn't being heard, and so I listened, took just copious notes, spoke to her extensively, but listened to her more extensively, and explained to her, in America you don't need a union. Oh my gosh, I might be raising like a whole bunch of feathers on a whole segment of people's necks who are paying union dues, or union stewards, or yeah, the chiefs and the big ones, the ones that are racking up the money, in the union space. But you don't, if you have ethical and good human resources, that and a good legal department that cares about people, right? So yeah, so much of this is so apropos. Oh, welcome. Oh, I thought maybe someone joined me. When it comes to the topic of AI, I mean, we just had a tragedy happen in Baltimore, and then was it Yeah. But I think on the East Coast, in that region, Boston, Massachusetts, Baltimore, Maryland, DC, all that region. I mean, there is so much coming out of those spaces in the way of engineering and robotics and AI, and it's flipping cool and spooky. I mean, it is a little spooky. Like, I laughed and like rolled my eyes when I saw Elon Musk kissing that mannequin. I'm sorry, robot, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I saw Elvis kiss a mannequin, didn't I? Like, is this like a repeat of a photograph? Somebody who's a photographer or a photography enthusiast, tell me what am I thinking of? I definitely have seen a photograph where somebody who's a very influential male is kissing a mannequin. But I mean, like, come on. It's about relationship. It's about human relationship. And so, this global and or race that we've got going on. The glare is terrible here. Let me see if I do this. It's a little better. Um, I mean, what are we doing? Standard of living, cost of living, climate of, let's just say, the hearts of people. I'm actually in the schools. I am in city schools in this region, and I am disturbed at how angry our children appear to be, and just, I'm going to say, the tolerance of it. And the pushback, if you call a child out, hey, stop talking, no. And the push and the testing and the like the superlatives, I think, is the word I'm searching for, but just the aggression, and just using their tongue and their words to passively or actually be aggressive to each other, or even the passive aggressive, like clowning around. This is absurd, America. It is not okay. This is absurd. I would like to know if this is going on in LA. I would like to know if this is going on in Chicago, DC, New York City, any major cities. Indianapolis. I'm going to throw out Indianapolis. It's never really brought up. How about Minneapolis? How about St. Paul? How about Salt Lake City? How about Albuquerque? How about Austin? How about in Louisiana? I'm trying to think. Sorry, any of you that are in Louisiana and Florida, any of the people in the states around the country, in Tennessee and Kentucky and West Virginia, North and South Dakota, whatever. Our children belong in school and should behave as students and should have a certain bar. Environment conducive to learning, people. And for all you single moms out there who are tired and you're just doing this, my heart is with you, okay? And my situation is just like yours, probably unique to every other person's in the world, because every single one of us brings our own facts, circumstances, mindset, disposition, and hope hopefully hope to every single situation. Oh, I don't know, YouTube, maybe you got to see that QR code from a Christmas present that came out of Chicago for my daughter, and I might get a copyright infringement, or somebody might want to purchase it. We are at a level of absolute absurdity, in my humble opinion. Maybe YouTube will edit this. Whoops. You can tell, like, this. Okay, so let's see. This is my right, and this is my left. But like when I'm looking into the camera, I'm flipped, right? Mhm. For those of you that do not know anything about old scrolls, ancient history, and biblical times, I'm going to say biblical times, but like writings, right? Like the book of Ecclesiastes talks about how nothing is new under the sun, but it's not true. It's not true. I mean, my relative, I have inventors in my family line, right? Or engineers and great discoveries and novel, new and different ways of approaching things. I mean, that's fun. That's fun. But just like when we were approaching Y2K, the solar eclipse is being and causing tremendous amounts of speculation. Solar, interesting, by the way. Solar speculation. Like the other day, I did an international weather service search and I could see comets. I could see, like, I'm like, what am I really seeing? Like, and then I saw the map of, the region that I was looking at, and I was like, oh my gosh, is this just a screen? I mean, like, what? Friedman wrote The World is Flat, and that just means that there's a whole new world that's going on behind the screens of computers. That's what it means. It means the internet is changing the landscape of economies and cultures. And America is quite engaging. That's what I'm going to say. We have children, adults, we have parents that are keeping a close eye on. I mean, during the pandemic, I was listening to a dad that this was quite charming to me, actually, endearing, really. But he was like going into back rooms with his child, in I can't remember which game it was, but I really worked hard to encourage my children never to do or say anything profane or engage in anything inappropriate online, be lured or, what have you. Yet, these games and the schools have so many electronic measurements and tests and, things. I would love to get in the nuts and bolts and see about comprehension and reading and sophisticated mathematical, like, can we really capture and measure if somebody has a bent towards physics? Can we identify that early? Will prodigies actually be detectable through just operating within the firewalls of the school districts? I think so. I mean, especially if, like, I knew one who, I mean, like, he figured out how to get around the school firewall, and it comes down to the good guys versus the bad guys, or the good gals versus the bad girls. It comes down to ethics. It comes down to conduct, ethical behavior. It does. The good guys versus the bad guys. The good people versus the bad one. I remember one of our IT people, she was brilliant. Her name, she was just like, Jamie, it's trial and error. I mean, she could navigate. Oh gosh, I was like, show me how you do this. And she's like, it's trial and error. Like, she never was afraid to knock or try, go down a pathway or what have you. Some of the most genius women I know who you would never guess, or they're just not afraid to try, to see, to explore, to just be curious. It's so annoying to me when we operate in a place of fear. I tell a story about, being with some gals and, or even, let's just say, being at a stoplight in the middle of nowhere, and you just sitting there waiting for the light to turn green, but there's no cars anywhere, right? Or like if you're out for a run. I mean, I've been with groups of people where, and some of the compliance people are like, like it doesn't say walk. How about situational awareness? Ugh. I mean, similarly in Europe, I can remember some friends, like, being very concerned about looking out for one another because there was no margins on the streets. There was, like, the safety factor was like way higher. Things were like much more jam-packed than in America. Although, I mean, candidly, I hadn't been to New York City in a while, but well, anyway, yeah, I'm noticing a lot. I'm noticing a lot in so far as, let's just call it the social scene in America, right? And and human interest stories, which are really important to people. Okay. I'm noticing obviously political leveraging. I'm noticing, monetary. Holy cow. I mean, what comes after a trillion? And then how does digital money, come into play? Is Bitcoin the new gold because it is the underpinning first, you know, digital currency? I don't know, folks, but I do know that the most important wealth is your relationships. And so maybe that's not grammatically proper, but the most important, yeah, when it comes to human beings, yeah, relationships matter. Human beings matter. So would you please consider how you sound, what you say, and if you are being, I'm going to use the word barbaric, coarse, rude. I don't care if you're right, left, or middle of the road. I don't care if you're right side up, upside down, hanging in the corner by your flipping toes like a bat. I don't care. It is 2024. Decency is in, or is it? I hope it is. And for all of the people around the globe who get pushed, like we have this push technology where it can be pushed right into your screen, right? Like, we call it algorithms, but it's push technology. So, you know, propaganda, I guess, just takes on a life of its own when it comes to this artificial intelligence. I urge you to continue to not allow yourself to like just walk around like a zombie and be programmed and, learn. Just be active in your learning. Be conscious of the people around you. Be kind. And be wise. Be wise. Be wise. Be a good steward of what little or much you've been given. Take care of your environment. Take care of yourself. And yeah, I this yeah, I want and I hope, I want to say I love you, but I know I'm on the other side of the screen and I have no idea. I have no idea who this is going out to. But yeah, I just want to encourage you to be well and to think about those things. And if you need or want to study love, I went on Wikipedia one time and studied every form of the word love that I could. Then I went to, like, from a biblical angle, I went from a whole bunch of angles, you know, and it was like dissected in so many ways. But the fact is, yeah, love is not unhealthy. And so I'm glad that we've settled down on this, sugar is the most addictive, whatever. And, like this whole addiction, on the, in the, World Health or local health organizations, let's teach people to be mindful and check their own behavior and not engage in toxic behavior in the schools, period. And that does, I think, mean turn off the phones, check them at the door. The best working environments and operating school that I have ever seen, hands down, was a tiny, although again, size matters, but I'm thinking of two approximate size. We're just going to go small to tiny, meaning K through 12 or K through, some of the charter schools actually open up in waves. So they start K through 8 and then they, advance to 9, 10, 11, 12. Anyway, well, two. Okay, two that are coming to mind, except for I got burned in one of them. But doesn't matter because it's not a personal thing. But yeah, I mean, I just think cell phones, and I think putting cell phones in the hands of children is not appropriate in school. I do. I say, and so for all of you, I joke that I'm a mama bear, but I never insisted that my child needed to have a phone or a watch to get in touch with me at every moment of every day. As a mother, I would challenge you moms to not get on that dumb bandwagon. That's dumb. And let the schools handle it. There's nurses on staff. If somebody, I mean, I have kids all the time telling me they need a Band-Aid, which I don't mind giving them a Band-Aid, but they're not even bleeding. There's not even a sliver there. You know? Get to work. Are you finished with your schoolwork? And then if somebody is finished, can they do something productive? Yes, build leadership. Keep these kids engaged and get them off these social units. That's what they are. Now that I've been, blacklisted for Apple, now that I've been blacklisted for Facebook, probably blacklisted for every social media, Twitter, Twitch. Oh gosh, Twitch. Yeah, I think Twitch is the YouTube. I'm not obviously blacklisted with YouTube, but you understand my point if you've been listening to the context of my monologue. At one of the schools, we were having an event, and the superintendent was actually present. I had some boys that were acting just childish, and I was trying to keep them in line. And I looked at them and I was like, "Are you going to behave?" I'm a sub. They don't know me. Yes, yes, Mrs. Store. I'm like, "Can you handle sitting with him?" Yes, yes. I'm like, "Your choice. If I see anything, you choose to be split up." And the superintendent was like, "I like that, right?" And I was like, "Oh." I put it on the kids. They rose to the occasion. Similarly, I have students across districts, across schools, who come in confused. Let's just use this word boldly, but like trans, right? I don't know if I'm a boy or a girl. I'm dressed kind of. The more I speak with authority and building them up, the more they act like young ladies and gentlemen, and they take pride in who they are. And I have seen people change their dress, whatever. So and I, believe me, have family members. I come from a very sizable tribe, but this agenda of the liberal queer, like we get to be wild and queer and strange and wackadoodle, and yes, all of this like drama in the face of value to distract from education. Let's just nail this to my conversation here. It's frankly disintegrating the confidence of our children, I think. And it's actually giving them a perceived irreverent, like a rebellious disposition that is nauseating to me. I was actually told that, or like it was that I use stereotypical language and in a context of performance in the schools. So I have to completely neutralize my language as a sub and not even identify if somebody is like a certain gender. And then a lot of these kids have just gray or neutral clothing. And how am I going to describe them? For crying out loud, knock this off. Foolishness. Foolishness. I don't know. Why? In this day and age, we are allowing such like I'm actually trying to search for like an appropriate, not, I'm sure I'm going to offend somebody, but appropriate word. I have a dear friend who's pretty grounded, who I've never met, by the way, but I do know him from a professional standpoint. I've met or interacted with his wife on Facebook. I know he's, our schools are allowing. Would somebody please tell me if this is truly happening? But we are allowing litter boxes in bathrooms? Like, listen, yeah, we used to say guys were cool cats or, girls were cool chicks and stuff, but come off it. I would love a picture of that. Does anybody have a picture? Or is this just urban mythology? Like, is this just, I'm going to call it, I'm going to call it academic mythology. That's what I'm going to call it. Like, I would like to know. I'll tell you what I am concerned about. I'm concerned when I smell cannabis on children. I am. I'm concerned when I smell nicotine on children. Um, I've not ever smelled alcohol on the breath of a child when I've been teaching. I'm concerned about that. Children should be protected. They should be safe environments, and they should not be allowed to make environments unsafe themselves. Number of teachers that I know in this community would probably blow my own mind just because I have substituted in one, two, three, four, five districts. I've done HR in one. I'm very active and or engaged in my community, so to speak, right? But the number of teachers who just are apathetic to the value, to the promotion of, to the actual learning of students because of, I'm going to call it the clowning around the clowning. That's what this whole like agenda is. It's a joke and it's not healthy. And no, I think any student who has had me, I operate on a pretty fair, reasonable, and even in a fun space. But I mean, I have been bullied and pushed around, experienced aggression, experienced verbal, passive aggressive, grumbling, cursing right in front of my face. And it is being turned on me that I have issues with classroom management when the language and the anger and the dirt that is coming out of the souls of the children is absurd, and the entitlement and the being angry and like feeling justified in like having a fit if they don't get a pass. Excuse me, administrators, superintendents, Ohio Department Educational System, every nation, I mean, every state in this nation, excuse me, the President of the United States of America and all of your people in education. In the workplace, there are two things. When it comes to human resources, you've got conduct and you've got performance. At performance measures whether people are working towards and together in alignment with the values and mission and the goals, which are revenue goals in corporations. In nonprofits, it's a different story. And yet, I don't fear, I feel like I'm witnessing the deterioration of morals and values in our schools. I've experienced firsthand employees who use up all their chances, so to speak, insofar as in the year 2000 to 2004, I would have employees come in and they would use up their attendance infractions as if they were free days off. So we gave them 10 days of attendance infractions and 10 tardies. And this was an entry level position. And I mean, there was no conservation of the concept that is like coinage. I'm talking about an hourly role, a position that would be similar to McDonald's and yet better. Hmm. I don't have the numbers, the details, but in my head, the math goes something like this. We started out when I was there with 20, maybe 30 employees. We worked on building a standard operating procedures manual. My boss was like a ninja. He's a great guy. And we ramped up to 1,100 employees 24/7, and then ramped back down and operated pretty well with an attrition level impressive to not just to the industry. I mean, I had VPs of HR across the company like calling me saying, what are you doing? What is going on? You're like, they were watching our numbers and our matrix. Kathy Kennedy. I've been trying to remember her name for quite some time. I remember she came in and she was good. But we had to warn them 60 days for the WARN Act, people. So if there's going to be a major layoff, I opted and went to HR, corporate, and said, no. I can't remember the exact details, but like it seems to me that the 60 days would have fallen like between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I feel like. And even if it was right before Thanksgiving, we opted, I think, for early October. And then we brought in employers and did everything we possibly could to equip people to get new jobs. And I closed the door. I laid off 500 people, including myself. I stayed in this community. We had a union avoidance campaign / effort. We ran HR as like a central intelligence agency. Sometimes it was so dumb, I didn't even know what was being said, but I was being, I don't know, maybe picked on, maybe teased, maybe not, but like one time I got called a mole and I had no idea what that was. And somebody had to explain to me. I think there was a show about like the mole or something. But basically, people would come into my office and then they would go out and they would say things and they put them on this website. It was called convergessucks.com. And my boss used to say to me all the time, don't go out there. Don't go. I never once, not even once did I ever go out there. But apparently my name is dragged through the mud on a regular basis all the time. And the center director actually had the kahunas to accuse me of targeting him. And then it turned out that the center director actually was targeting me. And this convergessucks.com was actually being fueled and fired by him. And we lied, we bluffed. We told him that we could figure out where all the clicks were coming from through an IP address. And suddenly within 1 week, the whole thing imploded. I mean, I honestly wonder if he just sat there and click, 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 click. And just like from like an autistic, beg your pardon, but I worked with people with disabilities kind of standpoint, just click, 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 click. And somehow like that drove like, perceived traffic. What's going on out there in cyberspace, folks? Everybody wants their I guess program or what have you. Everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame. For those of you who are young, especially young parents, please consider this. TikTok, whether it's 15 seconds or 30 seconds, but TikTok. If a child sits in front of TikTok, they get at least 2 bits of information. Let's just go 30 seconds in a minute, right? So that's 60 bits of information, plus a whole bunch of like quick interruptions, etc. If you've ever looked at, there's some good research. I'm not sure where it comes from, but like that there's a conversation that's coming that like women, actually visually, can like, process and or see, I don't know, things at a certain rate, number of photographs in a day and such. But like our eyes are directly connected to our minds, to our brain and our minds. And I think that that kind of research is incredibly interesting. And then also our ears. And then, of course, a very interesting study. And, for me, actually, I did in the first 10 years of my career worked with people who were severely multiple handicapped. So, creating an environment of comfort and support, enrichingness, and safety was really that was our goal. And for some of those people, that meant getting them out, making them dinner. Actually, the dietitian was furious with me because I was like, let him have a 2 liter of pop a day. Oh my gosh. She just would not unleash. This guy wanted caffeine so bad. And so he would actually, or nicotine, I don't know what it was, but in the INE space, I mean, the guy had what's called pica. And I was like, we have to do something to subdue this absolute compulsion this guy would have, because I wanted him to be able to be in public, but not go up to somebody who had a lit cigarette and put it in his mouth. I just want to encourage you. I will encourage you to be well. If you're struggling, see if you can get your eyes on something with blue space and authentic in person. I don't live in the mountains, nor do I live near a lake. I grew up in the, land of 10,000 lakes, and so very pretty. But we have beautiful parks. And so I just want to encourage everybody to get outside and or just appreciate God's beautiful nature and God's beautiful creation and God's beautiful earth, and yeah, learn all you can about the solar eclipse. Yeah, very fascinating stuff, folks. Be so agile and flexible and open-minded that you can go all the way into the stars like Elon Musk, but also be able to speak about exactly what's going on around you, and even some of the micro stuff like STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, art. Oh, STEAM, STEAM. All right, I'm going to run. And thanks for joining me. God bless you good. And just know this might seem boring to you, but it's relevant to today, to this day and age. And for all of you moms out there, right? New mothers, new fathers, this is relevant. And your enriching and guidance, your parenting matters. And for all of your teachers, all of our teachers out there, all of our pastors, all of our people, the way that we treat each other, it matters. And yeah, I just would encourage you to learn and to be part of a solution, not part of a problem. And so, yeah, that's my leadership close. God bless you good. Mwah! And realize there is always hope, people. Always. God bless you good. And oh my gosh, I'm actually okay. Right now, I'm just getting oriented. Just one more editorial final note. I have so many friends from so many countries and even religious cultures. Right now, I have numerous people that I'm close with that are Muslim and uh, and even other cultures where springtime is such a time of holy, holy, holy. Right? It's new life. So although Australians and New Zealand folks and people in the southern hemisphere are going into winter. We are coming into summer. So God bless you all over the globe. And yeah, I'm going to end the stream coming out of a tiny little place in northern Ohio. And thanks. Thanks for listening and bye. Yeah, focus on alliance, not on division.